Okay, graphing trig functions. Okay, let's talk about just the basic graphs. So let's graph y equals sine of x. Okay, so let's start with the sine of 0. So sine of 0 is 0 degrees. The sine of 90 is 1. The sine of 180 is 0. And then when we go to 270, the sine becomes negative 1. And then when we go back to 360 degrees, sine becomes 0 again. Okay, and obviously you can continue that pattern on and on and on and on, right? Okay, just thinking about your unit circle. Okay, so now let's do cos. Okay, so let's think about 0 degrees. Your x value is 1 there. And then at 90, your x value is 0. And then at 180, your x value is negative 1. And then we're going back to 0 and then back up to 1. Okay. Okay, let's do tangent. So at 0 degrees, it's y, right? 0 divided by 1, which is 0. Then we actually, let's do 45 here. At 45, we know that it's 1, right? Because it's root 2 over 2 divided by root 2 over 2. And then when we get to 90 degrees, what we have happening is that it goes undefined because 1 divided by 0, and that creates an asymptote. So it's going to create a pattern so pi over 2 is an asymptote, and then at 270 degrees, right, or 3 pi over 2, there's another asymptote, and it's going to continue this pattern. Okay, so that's y equals tan of x. Okay, we're mostly going to be working with transformations on sine and cos. So it's good to kind of know where the basic sine and cos curves start. Okay, and you can obviously develop those on your own. So what if, let's do y equals absolute value of 2 sine x and then subtract 1. Okay, so let's talk about this value first. Okay, so that means we're vertically stretching it by 2. So here's my points. They're going to go, instead of reaching a height of 1, it's going to reach a height of 2. Okay, so we know that from negative 2 to 2. Okay, so that's my first idea. Then I'm going to think about the absolute value, which means keep all the positive stuff, and then we need to reflect all the negative stuff. Okay, So this now got flip-flopped to the positive. Then we need to think about that transformation, which shifts it down 1. So now these points are going to be down 1. So this was at 2 and this was at 0, right? So now this is going to go to 1. And it's going to continue in that pattern. Okay, so if we label some points here, this is a height of 1, height of -1, and every time it was hitting 0, this would have been pi, 2 pi, right? But now those points are right here and right there. Okay, let's try another one. Y equals 3 sine pi over 5 x minus 1 plus 2. Okay, so let's talk about these multiplier numbers first. So this is our horizontal compression. Now, when we started with a sine, we talk about how long it takes to go one complete cycle till it gets back. So like basically in a unit circle, how long does it take to get back, right? So in this, it takes 360 degrees or 2 pi to go a whole cycle before it starts to repeat itself. So the period equals 2 pi, but on ours, the period is going to be 2 pi divided by the b, because it's going to compress how long it takes to make a whole cycle. So 2 pi, and then I'm going to times and flip-flop. So then it takes 10 units to make a whole cycle. So now how does that change my sine graph? It means that that's a 5 and that's a 10 on the x. Okay, so that's what I have right now. Okay, now let's talk about this 3 value. So A is 3. So that's our vertical stretch. Okay, and that is going to be called our amplitude. Okay, so now what does it do to change stuff? That this is going to be up at 3 and this is going to be a low of -3. Okay, and then we have 2 more transformations. We're going to move this right 1 and up 2. So this point 0, 0 is now going to become 1, 2. Okay, I'm going to move this 5 next. So 5, 0 is now going to become 6, 2. Okay, and then I kind of like visualize that this is now my center line. So my center, like see how this was always going off of the line y equals 0. Now it's kind of like y equals 2 is my center line. And then I'm going to have to move 3 up. So 1, 2, 3 to get my max. And since these are 5 apart, I'm going to go 2.5. to get up to my max. And then I'm going to go 2.5 to get my minimum, which is -1, because obviously this has to be a distance of 3 away from the center line and 3 away from the center line. Okay, so you can see that I have this point 6, 2, 1, 2, and so then this would be 11, 2. Obviously it would keep going. Okay, so you can see that this D kind of affects where the central line is, and then the amplitude is that. So you can get a min or max value by thinking about your D value, which is 2, right? And then going down 3 or up 3. So now you can see that -1 is the lowest and 5 is the highest. Okay, so this would be 3.5, 5. Okay, because I went halfway between the 1 and the 6, and then I knew my max was to go 3 up.